Next is going to be Affliction, 2 low damage.
2 low damage. 2 low damage.
And goodbye. There it is. That's how you kill Astaroth.
Holy Jesus! What is that? What the fuck is that?
I have made history. What is going on, my fellow nerds? Operator Otter here, and today we're going to talk about the new DecrepiFLY Necro, which is a new build coming in Season 9, which utilizes the Affliction passive and the buffs that it has received to give us this massive form of front-loaded damage where everything in that circle that I just casted right there, dead. Anything pit 60 and below, one shot, boom, deleted from the existence of Sanctuary. They do not exist anymore. And then we're going to mix that with the mobility of Inexorable Reaper's aspect and the Igni Jaw rune with a bunch of cooldown reduction to make us move like this. And now we just get to abuse this level of mobility in the game to give us the best speed farm Necro build we have ever had, which is awesome for 2 reasons. 1, speed farm content has a lot of value in Diablo 4 because it's what's going to allow us to have the best XP per hour, as you can see in this video right here. It is also going to allow us to get through those nightmare escalation sigils the fastest. It's going to allow us to get through those infernal hordes the fastest and give us a bunch of materials so that we can actually do our pit pushing ventures with those materials that we've used to masterwork our gear. On top of that, Necro has just always been cosplaying a tortoise for the last 8 seasons, so this is really nice to know that we finally have a build that can actually do a pit in less than 1 minute in Torment 4. That is a very, very good thing to have. So without further ado, let's talk about it. So the first thing that we're going to talk about are the 4 pillars of the DecrepiFLY Necro, which are the stat lines by which the build needs in order to function at just a bare bones minimum level. And the first one that we're going to talk about is cooldown reduction. Now, the reason cooldown reduction is important is, first and foremost, it's what gives us our mobility, because the Inexorable Reaper's aspect has a 3.5 second cooldown, but when you look down at Sever here, it has a 0.88 second cooldown. It's actually 0.875, but it's rounding up. And what that means is that I have the maximum 75% cooldown reduction on Inexorable Reapers to make it do things like this, where the cooldown is so low I can literally just keep casting it as a blink ability and moving through the dungeon or whatever content that I'm going for. So it's what gives us a lot of our mobility. The second thing is it gives us a lot of damage, and the reason being is it upkeeps our Soul Rift. Now, when we cast Soul Rift, it's going to stack up to 15% damage, which is nice, but it's also going to give us more damage through Finality, which is going to be a 20% damage multiplier. Vehement, which is going to give us another 30% damage multiplier. It's also applying Vulnerable, which with our Sacrificial aspect and our Memento Mori is going to make our Skeletal Mage, or sorry, Cold Mage sacrifice 41% on top of the 20% base of Vulnerable. So casting your ultimate legitimately just triples your damage. So we really want to upkeep our Soul Rift the entire time. It's very, very important that we have both of those things, being maximum ability and maximum uptime on our Soul Rift, possible. So how do we do that? So first we need to discuss where the sources of the cooldown reduction are coming from. First, we have the mobility cooldown reduction temper. The Inexorable Reaper's aspect makes Sever a mobility skill. And so when you look here, it sees that has the mobility tag. So now the mobility cooldown reduction temper actually affects it. So we're going to put that in our boots and our amulet, and then we're going to have cooldown reduction in the amulet. And there's no way to dodge it, guys. It's the biggest source of cooldown reduction in the game. It is the GA cooldown reduction triple hit Harlequin Crest. Now, there are going to be other options that I'm going to be talking about, but that is the big one that you want to go for. Problem is that even with all that cooldown reduction I just talked about, we're still not capped on the cooldown reduction of our Inexorable Reapers. So how are we going to get there? So what we can see here is the cooldown reduction calculation that we run in Diablo 4. And we can see that even with all of those items in that cooldown reduction, we only get to 68.2% cooldown reduction and 75% is the max. So where's the extra source of cooldown reduction coming from? Well, in Season 9, we have this cool Heroic Jewel that gives our Catalytic skill 25% cooldown reduction. And this is not the catalyst. This is not the actual thing here. It is the skill that you attach it to. So it is going to give Sever 25% more cooldown reduction, and that works with any skill if you guys want to play with that for any of your builds, but it can be used in the ultimate and stuff as well, and it's pretty cool. But when we run the jewel here, now the new cooldown reduction for Sever is 76.1%, which means we have now bypassed the maximum by 1.1%. That gives us our maximum cooldown reduction for our mobility and allows us to scoot everywhere with maximum efficiency. So now we need to upkeep our ultimate every 8 seconds, because the way that our finality works is that it resets every 8 seconds, and the same with our Vehement, it's only up for 8 seconds. We need to get Soul Rift to reset every 8 seconds, and we need to reduce that by 4.15 seconds because it's 12.15 seconds as a cooldown right here. So how are we going to do that? We're going to do that through the Rune Seer Zek, where we cast 5 skills. It's going to reduce it by 3 seconds. We're going to do that twice, and it'll reset. So I come here, I'm doing my thing, it resets, I'm just walking around doing my thing again. I'm going to go ahead and do this, and boom, it's reset, and we're good to go. That is how we are going to reset our ultimate as we are doing our speed farm content, so that we have 100% uptime on our Soul Rift. So let's say you don't have a GA cooldown reduction Harlequin. What's the next best option? Just a regular Harlequin that's 12 out of 12. And you don't even need to hit anything because it just gives 29% cooldown reduction, and it gives max life and armor and damage reduction. It's just a very good helm. This is the one that you want. But let's say you don't have a Harlequin. The next best thing is going to be Crown of Lucian, because this has cooldown reduction built into it. And if you GA and triple hit it, it can get to really outrageous numbers. It also gives a 75% damage multiplier. The added essence cost doesn't matter because we're going to have essence on kill, and Soul Rift is going to replace all our essence, so it doesn't really matter. So it does fill in that stat slot. If your stats aren't high enough to one-shot things, this gives you a pretty good damage multiplier. Next one is going to be Air of Perdition, because it's what's going to allow us to, without any Masterworks or GA, it just gives us 29% critical hit chance, which is going to be one of the pillars of the build. We want to be able to crit every single time. It also gives us a 60% damage multiplier. So those are your 3 options if you do not have that GA cooldown reduction Harlequin. The next pillar is going to be critical strike chance. We want 100% because we want to crit every single time, like most builds do. This is a crit build. We want to be able to crit every single time. Now, what I want you to notice is that if you look in town, you'll see that my critical strike chance is not 100%. But as soon as I walk out of town, now when I look at my critical strike chance, it's 100%. And the reason being is because it's not taking into effect Aspiring Leader when I am in town. It only goes into effect when I'm in combat. So with Shroud of False Death, this is going to give you 16%. Without it, it's going to give you 12%. So if you have a Shroud of False Death, you want this critical strike chance to say 84%. If you do not, you want it to say 88%. That's basically where we're at on that. Now, there are so many sources of critical strike chance that we have on Necro that it's not exactly hard to get there, but I'm going to talk about some of the pieces of gear. First, you have your gloves. You can have critical strike chance on that. I got a really good pair right here that's just working. You don't need this. It's not necessary at all. I'm running Ring of Starless Skies. You can just run a ring with critical strike chance on it. You can run another ring with critical strike chance on it. I don't even have critical strike chance on this ring, right? And another thing is, if you don't even have that, then you can just go to a socketable and just run this Jewel that gives you 15% critical strike chance if you have 2 Arcana with power, and luckily in the build we actually do. We have power, bam. All right, there's another 15% critical strike chance. Critical strike chance capping is not hard in this build at all, but it's something that you need to achieve, and you're gonna have to play Tetris a little bit with the stat lines in your gear to be able to achieve it, but that's something that you can do, and that's something that you want to achieve because you want to be able to crit every single time. We have a lot of crit multipliers. It's something that's important to do. The next pillar is going to be attack speed, and that is because DecrepiFLY actually has a coefficient to it that causes it to attack faster than any other skill. So if we come out here and we attack with our 100% attack speed right here, you can see it's 100%. If I were to use Blight 3 times, 1, 2, 3, that's how fast I'm attacking. Now you use my DecrepiFLY, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can see it's way faster. And that's just the way that DecrepiFLY and Corpse Explosion are coded. So this means that having 100% attack speed in your build actually allows you to attack 3 to 4 times as fast if you had 0% attack speed. It's a massive multiplier to your damage. damage, and I highly suggest getting it. Now, the way that you need to do this is just you need to hit 85% in your attack speed bonus, because with your consumables, you can drink an elixir and advantage, and that gives you 15%. You run attack speed in your gloves, you run attack speed in both your rings, you can run attack speed here. In fact, you don't even need to run attack speed in one of these pieces of gear. If you have Ring of Starless Skies, if you don't have Ring of Starless Skies, you're going to have to run attack speed in all of them, but it's not hard to get to 100% attack speed, but that is something that you want to get to in order for the build to function. The last pillar is going to be curse size. And I know that sounds like common sense, but I really want to show you the application of what happens when you don't have curse size. So I do not have any curse size on. Those were in my boots and my amulet. Let's say that I'm completely surrounded by enemies. I need to kill all of them. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It cost 6 curses to attack all the way around me. Now, if I put those curse tempers on, now 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it just covers so much more ground and allows you to move so much faster because of how much you're actually dealing your damage in that area, that the damage profile becomes so much more efficient that it allows you to just Scooty McScooter really quickly through any of the content that you're trying to do, which is why it's a pillar. It is absolutely necessary that you have those curse size tempers, so make sure that you are rolling those on your gear and you're getting to 100% curse size. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a couple tricks of the trade that have to do with your expression of skill with the build, and the first one is going to be some mobility combos. So your bread and butter when you're going through any content is just going to be Sever into DecrepiFLY into Sever into DecrepiFLY. That's going to be your bread and butter. But let's say you want to cover a little bit more ground than that. You can do Sever Teleport, DecrepiFLY, Sever Teleport, DecrepiFLY. That is another form of mobility that you can have with the build. Now, let's say that you have the cooldown reduction low enough to support this trick, or you have a cooldown reduction shrine, you can do the triple dash, which is Sever, Teleport, Sever. It'll look like this: Sever, Teleport, Sever. That's one way that you can do it. Now, let's say that you need to cover a lot of ground and you want to be able to do that over multiple dashes. It's Sever, Teleport, Sever, Sever, Teleport, Sever. It'll look like this: Sever, Teleport, Sever, Sever, Teleport, Sever. That is the best way that you can cover ground with this build. Now, something about the Sever dash is that it stubs its toe on rocks, which means it can't go through doorways or walls. And you can see that with this rock right here, I cannot dash over it, but what I can do is teleport over it. So what you can do is, as you're going through the dungeon, if you know how the layout is, you can do some pretty cool tricks, stuff that looks like this: Sever, Teleport, Sever. Right? You can do some pretty cool stuff like that and get some skill expression how you're moving throughout the instance that you're in to actually do that. So those are the mobility tricks to the build. Now let's talk about how to deal damage with the build. So obviously the best way to do more damage with the build is just to upkeep Soul Rift, right? And we already talked about how to do that previously and how we're going to upkeep Soul Rift, so we don't need to talk about that again, but just make sure that you're keeping up Soul Rift. You need to keep recasting Soul Rift and keep it up. But another trick that we can do is Reap. Reap is really, really cool. It's a Sever Reap trick. And the way that we were going to do this is that Reap actually allows us to bypass the 100% attack speed and go into 130% attack speed. So one of the tricks that I like to do when I'm doing speed content is you're going to Sever, Reap, DecrepiFLY. That's going to give you 130% attack speed, and then you can cover the whole room with it. So it looks something like this. We're going to Sever into an enemy, Reap it, do that, and now we have all this attack speed and we can just cover so much ground with that extra attack speed. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our single target damage and our multipliers to our damage. So the thing is that this build's single target damage is kind of bad, because if we just go up and we start hitting the target, it's only 800 million to 1 billion. It's really not that impressive, right? So one of the first things that we can do to improve our damage is just hit it with Blight. The reason being is that Affliction is not actually a darkness skill, which means it doesn't actually turn on Gloom. But Blight is a darkness skill, and that will turn on Bloom, as well as the 20% damage multiplier. So if we just hit it with a Blight and then we Soul Rift, all of a sudden our damage goes to the moon. Now, the next thing that we can do is we can actually turn on Flesh Eater. The way that we're going to do this with a boss is that we walk up to him, we're going to Reap him, that's going to create the corpse. We're then going to Blight them twice. The reason being is that Blight is really good with huge flesh to create corpses. So we go up, we Reap, we Blight twice, and then we're going to 1, 2, 3, we activate, Blight again, and then we're just going to go through a rotation, and you can see now we're hitting for 2.6 bill, almost 3 billion, right? So that is the ways that we can actually get our multipliers to boost our DecrepiFLY damage. But there's another thing that's doing damage that's way more than DecrepiFLY. The real damage is these cosmic anomalies, because if we look at our affliction base damage is 361,000, but our cosmic anomalies are 2.6 million, which is quite a bit, and they scale off the same things that our affliction does. Problem is that these cosmic anomalies are really inconsistent and kind of bugged. When we have a lot of damage instances against the target with our Soul Rift up, for whatever reason, it just kind of doesn't want to work. As we can see here, if I try to get it to work, it's just not doing what it's supposed to be doing. But as soon as my Soul Rift is down, now they all work, right? It's very, very awkward. So here's how we actually have to play around it, which sounds super, super but that's just kind of the way it works. What we have to do is we have to go up to the target and we have to get all of our damage multipliers up with Soul Rift up, just dealing our damage. So we're still doing everything that we've been doing before. We're doing the same thing. We get everything going. And then when our Soul Rift is off cooldown and not working, we have to back up, get everything set, and then Q in and then turn on the Cosmic Anomalies. They go in and they deal 15 billion damage per. And that is how we actually deal the big damage to Astaroth, as you see right here. And goodbye. There it is. So yeah, I hope that was a good explanation of the single target damage. That is a serious skill expression of the build if you can do it correctly. So hope that helps. Hope you have fun with the build. I've got nothing else for you. Go out there, have fun, and start speed farming on a Necro, because this is a new day and a new age, and I'm very happy about it. Operator Otter, out.